Hey y'all, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Bodice Tipplers.
The podcast where we read all the books we used to steal off our grandmother's nightstands.
And then we drink about it.
On this episode, we read Judith McNaught's Double Standards. The content warnings, a lot of them come from the fact that it is an 80s boss secretary book. And so that is a through line through the entire thing. It is not as bad as it possibly could be. But yeah, it's like Me 3. It's like all the uncomfortable situations that hope to God you do not have to end up in anymore as a secretary happen to you in this time in this book.
Yeah, there are a lot of shades of Weinstein in this.
Yeah, like there's like the boss secretary ball. Yeah, so it's got all that kind of thing, and that's constant in this book. It also has some pretty emotional child abandonment scenes that were happening in the past, but that, continue to be important in the present of the book.
There's also a scene where there is some hair grabbing in not a fun, safe, sane, consensual way. Also, while our characters, their age difference is not really that big, kind of in actuality, she is skewed to be very, very young, and they keep bringing that up.
Which is weird because she has a master's degree, in piano, so, I guess she is very young, but, she's... They want to have their cake and eat it too, but they do keep pointing out how young she is, and they want to make her look. People think she's a teenager and all, and that's a really unsettling part of this book.
Right. Sexual callousness. There's a lot of sexual callousness, and also a lot of just kind of like sexual coercion. Our main character has a very dude bro frat vibe, and he seems very, sexual pressuring.
Like Eurofrat vibe, almost. Like like, I'm a sophisticated older man, so whatever.
Which goes, again, into our shades of Weinstein.
Yeah, and it also has, hilariously, it's a me, Mario, Italian stereotypes.
You got to use your hands when you do it.
Yeah.
It's a me, a Mario.
I'm sorry. I also should have bounced up and hit a mushroom with my head.
You should have hit a mushroom. And we also have a woman who has no money and is doing things for money, driving around a brand new Trans Am.
Dude, you got to have the
so bad financial decisions, bad financial literacy. That's a trigger warning.
Yes, that is true. One thing that actually might be upsetting for some people also is that as a child, a character bullies her by shoving her into the Doberman pincher enclosure and leaving her there and telling her that they're going to eat her.
Right.
So I know that's going to be upsetting to some people. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play?
Hey, y'all. It's Bodice Tipplers, and it's hot as fuck.
We're getting our first actual real South Carolina summer weather, and we're stopping recording every so often to run the air conditioner.
I have 2 air conditioners going in the room above my garage. It's a 2 air conditioner situation. So...
It's an icing your red wine situation.
The things that we do for y'all. 2 air conditioners going. I'm in my caftan. I'm sweating through the caftan, but,
And what do we get for our show? We get Your Voice is So Gross.
Your voice is so gross. So, yes, we are reading, as Sarah said, Double Standards by Judith McNaught.
It is our first Judith McNaught. I do actually own Whitney, My Love, and I got, evidently, this is a book that they took out a whipping scene in later editions, so I specifically have an earlier edition, but I just didn't feel like that for today, so I have not read it yet.
And what we're drinking is just iced wine.
Whatever. Just
wine, and it's too hot to even care. It's nothing good, nothing exciting for y'all.
It was so hot, I forgot to look in my mom's bathroom for...
You didn't get the bathroom?
No, I was at her house today, and I meant to score some bathroom wine, and I completely forgot.
You blew it. You could have been cool, because the bathroom is always the coldest place in the house. And then, could have...
She's old enough that she keeps it set at 74.
Oh my God, my father. I can't go visit my father in the summer because he keeps it at old man hot. He keeps his house at 78 degrees. And for some of y'all, you're like, that's fine.
This is South Carolina.
Oh my God. The last time we did go see him in June, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, I snuck down and put it down to 76, and then got up before him and put it back up, because he's very much that old man that's like, who touched my thermostat? So.
Well, the thing about South Carolina is that when we say it's at 74, it's not actually, your house is not 74 degrees.
Mm-mm.
No, your house is 82 or what the fuck ever, because your air conditioner at this time of year is just chugging all fucking day.
That bitch is just like, I can't keep up. It's like Rocky and like round 11 or 12, it's about to die.
Yeah, it's like that.
So Judith McNaught. Let's talk about old Judith. Judith is, this is my first one of her books, and I'm really surprised by that because
she was everywhere.
Well, she's up there with she's kind of a Nora Roberts in that she's got 30 million copies of her work in print. So Judith was born in 1944 in San Luis Obispo, which is like my favorite place to say. She majored in business at Northwestern, and she married a St. Louis dentist. So this is very kind of reminiscent to this book.
God, I hope not. I hope that she didn't have these experiences.
Well, no, but just like where it is. So she wrote Whitney. She wrote the first manuscript that Sarah just mentioned, Whitney, My Love. She wrote between 1978 and 1982. She had difficulty selling it, and then she wrote Tender Triumph in 82. She received the book cover for Tender Triumph on June 20th, 1983. Oh, God, the day after her husband was killed in an accident. I was not expecting that turn.
Wow, really making it clear that we don't prep for these.
So Whitney, My Love was finally published in 1985 after she had proven herself with 2 successful published novels. So her early novels are kind of unique.
Well, but can we talk about the thing that we learned today?
Oh, so yeah, she's got a daughter that, again, I think was with her first husband, and her daughter's name is Whitney. And then her book is Whitney, My Love.
A book where I am aware that there is a whipping scene that was too much for the 80s.
So what they said is like different about her books is like, because she did she didn't follow the Regency romance rules, which were light romp with no sex. Her novels tended to be intensely sensual and witty. The book is now, Whitney, My Love, inventing the genre today known as the Regency historical. And it captured the elements of the traditional Regency romance, but its long length, sensuality, and emotional intensity were more often associated with traditional historical romance, which were rarely set during the Regency period. And so she's still putting books out today, and this is amazing. In the early 1990s, Coors Brewing asked her to write a book that would appeal to women and could be used by the company to promote its women's literacy program. This is actually really cool. Appalled at the discovery that 1 in 5 women was functionally illiterate, McNaught offered to rewrite her almost completed manuscript Perfect to insert the literacy theme. The change took her an additional 6 weeks to incorporate, and she chose to donate a portion of her earnings from the book to women's literacy programs and insisted that each book contain a card giving readers information on how to donate to the programs.
Well, that's cool.
That is really cool.
But the Coors tie-in...
Well, I mean, she was the keynote speaker at the Romance Writer RWA in 1996, and in 1997, the Texas Monthly Women selected her among their 4 favorite authors, with John Grisham, Patricia Cornwell, and Dean Koontz.
Wow, that's fancy, expensive company.
And so I think she's still writing today, and I think a lot of y'all have brought up that are Judith. I feel like people tended to, growing up, kind of be in 1 or 2 camps of writers. Like, I was in the Jude Devereaux camp. Some people were more in the Nora Roberts camp.
Mm-hmm. The Joanna Lindsay camp was well-peopled. I was in the Danielle Steele camp.
Yeah, so we have, this one is double
And, for all I know, I might have read her because, I read a lot of books, and I don't remember all of them at all. But, so this book, this is our first really business book.
Business.
I've been kind of looking to do one just because of the 80s, the big hair, the big shoulder pads on men and women, the working girl. Yeah.
Or, for me, the sexiest business movie. Big Business.
See, I have not seen Big Business.
Oh, my God.
I did watch, for a ridiculous number of times as a young person, The Secret of My... Wait. Is it
The Secret of My Success?
Okay, because it's The Sweet Smell of Success. It's the old one. The one with Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox and Helen Slater were The Secret of My Success.
Oh, my God. And that book is objectively... The movie is objectively terrible.
Do you know, I have the... Listen to me, kids. Back in the day when they put out a movie, a lot of times they'd put out a book accompanying them. And so I like to collect the movie accompanying books. So I have The Secret to My Success book.
Oh.
So you can read it and relive all your favorite moments.
See, I remember, so when we moved into town, we still had our console TV. And I guess I had taped it off of a video from Blockbuster, because you used to do that with 2 VCRs and a lot of coaxial cable. And I watched it, like, a lot, because I thought that Michael J. Fox was super hot. And I thought, on the console TV, that you could see him naked when he dives into a pool in a scene in this movie. And then we got a new TV, and I could clearly see that those were skin-colored, not even, like, Speedos, but, like, just, like, shorts.
You were like, no.
No, I thought I was like this close to seeing dick.
I know, you know. Like,
Michael J. Fox's dick. I'm so sorry, Mr. Fox. You seem like a nice dude, and I'm a little embarrassed now about my thirst.
I don't think you should be embarrassed. I think that story is amazing, and I think you should be proud of it. I loved it because I went through a period where I was like, the most sophisticated and beautiful woman in the world is Supergirl, a.k.a. The Legend of Billie Jean, a.k.a. Helen Slater. Why don't you read the book?
They don't make business movies anymore, do they?
Because you know what? Business sucks now.
Yeah, I know. Like, you can't, like, really feel like you're... I mean, but all those movies about business, like, or about business sucking, they're about working in the mailroom or about having, like, Sigourney Weaver yell at you all the time. Can you imagine how hard you would cry if Sigourney Weaver yelled at you?
You know what? I was kind of Team Catherine. Catherine went away on a ski trip, and she comes back, and Melanie Griffith is just, like, upended her life.
Oh, no, I agree. But I still would not want Sigourney Weaver to yell at me, all right? Or, I mean, like, they're not great then. I mean, I understand that now we all work on cube farms and want to kill ourselves, but I mean, it was not so awesome back then either.
But we did have the greatest song of all time, Carly Simon's.
That's true. Oh my God, such a good song.
Like, if I need to lift a car off of anybody,
yes,
if you ever need to get me, like, hyped up enough, like, that's the song that played. That or St. Elmo's Fire by John Parr. Like, those are the two. Like, if I just had to, like, if you drop me in the Olympics and you're like, okay, bitch, you got to win something. Like, put those two songs on and I am going to be... like going, like Man in Motion and Let the River Run.
I for once, I actually agree with you at a pop culture opinion. Yes, 100%. But then we can also keep 9 to 5 as like a get your heart rate up, like on
that's like the warm up. That's like
that's my warm up song, like when I run,
running in place. Yeah, doing my like slapping my thighs, getting ready,
pouring yourself a cup of ambition.
Yes, whatever it is I'm doing.
So anyway, that's that's the milieu for this. Back when business was sexy instead of fucking shitty.
Yes.
So this is one of those covers that is like was really common back in the day, but is super boring. Like, so it's got her name and the title very large, and it's pink, and it has a very, very Georgia O'Keeffe iris on it. I think it has a clit. I think the iris, like, look at that. That is...
It's one of those boring covers.
Yeah, it's one of those boring covers.
Where somebody could read it. Ooh, well, let me tell you, the original cover is way better.
Oh, was it a silhouette?
It was.
I didn't know that.
So the original cover it's a clinch cover. We've got, she's in the dress.
Oh, that dress is in the book.
Yeah, she's in the dress. He looks vaguely terrifying, and
that's about right.
That's the foreground, and then like the one in the background is her in her business suit. So
I see that. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, the little inset girl. Ah, okay. Well, this is. I just assumed that this was the cover because this kind of cover was so common.
That's the one that you could read it on the subway and not feel
right. Except for I don't know these irises are these irises are in bloom.
Pornographic irises.
Ooh. So let me read you the back.
We're like 30 minutes in and we have not even gotten to this one. Okay.
He had power, wealth, a way with women. She had beauty, fire, a desperate secret. In the exclusive, glittering world of business superstars, Nick Sinclair was a legend. He's like 36. How much of a legend can you be? Oh, my God. The ruggedly handsome president of Global Industries handled his business the way he handled his women, with charm, daring, and ruthless self-control. Probably with a slap or two and a man used to the very best. Nick hired Lauren Danner and assumed the proud beauty would soon be another easy conquest. But Lauren's flashing wit and rare spirit dazzled him, and slowly against his will he was intrigued, challenged, and in love. Yet Lauren was living a lie, a charade that became more dangerous with every passing moment. They're not going to fucking stab her. Trapped in a web of deceit, she fought her growing love for Nick. Her secret could destroy his fragile trust and the promise of life with the most compelling man she had ever met. She hasn't met a lot of men.
This is published in 1984.
Yeah. So, We got Lauren. Lauren has traveled from her small town of Missouri to the big city of Detroit, which is extremely glamorous and glittering. So it was the 80s.
Yes.
It was a different time. And she has come to ask for a job because she has a master's degree in piano performance because she's a deeply practical person, obviously. And she everything has dropped out from under her, though. Like, her father has had a heart attack, so she needs to pay for his medical bills. Her mom dropped dead, right?
Yeah, her mom dropped dead when she was in, middle school. Her father was an English professor. And, he was remarried, and she had an older sister. Like, she got a stepsister and a stepbrother. Her father, this is some bullshit because this is back before, the way that academia is now. Her father just gets fired from his English professor job.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not telling, that man would have had tenure in the 80s.
Yeah, well, maybe they didn't tell you exactly what happened.
And so, her father is uninsured, unemployed, and he has a massive heart attack, and Lauren has to take care of the bills.
But she ain't selling her new Trans Am.
No, she had bought a Trans Am.
Well, she might have bought it right before he had the heart attack.
So,
I think, it depreciates by whatever when you drive it off the lot.
So
she wasn't getting rid of that sweet-ass car.
She rolls up into Grosse Pointe, and she has rich, distant relatives.
Yeah, they're I don't know, whatever once removed. And it's Philip and Carol, and then I think Charles is the son. And so she knows them because evidently Carol's mom got super into fucking genealogy, and we've all had this experience. So, except for the fact that we didn't invite all these people to come stay with us for a while, and it was awful. Charles, bullied her and, stuck her in the dog pen.
Yeah.
And the Carol was, a fucking bitch on wheels and, called them names at dinner, and the whole thing was awful. But they remember her. It's so shallow because they don't remember oh yeah, but you're shit, whoa, you're hot now and you used to be ugly.
Yes, that is the biggest the biggest personality trait that Lauren has in the beginning of this book is that she was once not even she was just a child, and now she's way hot.
Yeah.
She's
mega hot, but also super young looking. It tells you all the time how really young she looks, which is deeply disturbing.
Yes. So she is a 23-year-old piano major, Trans Am driving woman that looks like she is 16.
Yes, but also a really hot 16.
Yes.
So Philip actually seems really nice. And I mean to the reader too when you meet him, and he's offers her a job with his company and names a staggering salary, which I would have loved to see the numbers on because it would have been funny now. But he says, but what our problem is that there's this other company, is it Cinco or something?
Yeah.
And they keep underbidding us by just a couple $1,000s. So we think that we have a corporate espionage situation, and what we want you to do is. We want you to go get a job over there as a secretary. And then they keep having to tell her, no, secretaries are really well respected, executive secretaries, which is true, but they have to say it so much in this book that you think that maybe she doesn't think that that's the case.
Yeah.
That a real executive secretary is worth a ton of fucking money. But it's a lady does protest too much situation. They keep saying it. So, and he says, okay, you go over there, you get the job, and you don't have to rat on everything. You just have to listen for there are 5 names, and one of these 5 names would have been the person who leaked this. And she's not thrilled with it, but it's so much money and her dad needs it so that she says yes. And he says, and also, if you don't get the job, fine, you got a job here. And if you get the job and it pays less than I just quoted you, I'll make up the difference. And there's a bounty if you come up with the thing we're looking for. So she feels weird and bad about it, but she doesn't really know how to say no. So she's thinking it over and all, and she goes and she applies, but she's like, no, this I shouldn't do this. So what she does is she tanks the application.
The secretary test.
Yeah, when it says, which job are you looking for? It's yours, which is now what they tell you to say, I guess. But, and she lies about being able to do shorthand. She lies about all of her actual real secretarial skills.
She changes, So she says that she never went to college.
Well, and she says that partly, I think, though, because she doesn't want this all to look suspicious, which is weird because I think that, a lot of so my dad had executive secretaries in the 80s, and I think they all went to college. Or they went to secretarial school, which was still a thing then. And, she knows shorthand. How the fuck does she even know shorthand?
I guess you
school.
learned at a piano school.
Yeah, piano school, piano master's degree. So she tanks the job and she feels good about that. Like, so the hiring manager like throws it like in her face.
Mr. Weatherby.
And she walks away, she walks through. She takes a shortcut through a construction area in Detroit at night. And she hears footsteps behind her, and she starts to run, and she falls down as this whole thing. And there's this building that's like, it's not quite still under construction. Like, the landscaping isn't done yet, and the furniture isn't all moved in. But it's like, you know, like a significant completion or whatever it is. And there's men there, and she runs into them, like, screaming. And I thought at this point that everybody that her knew what she was up to because somebody says her fucking name.
I don't know.
Somebody says Lauren Danner, and I mean, like what the fuck? But no, evidently that was just like a weird editing mistake or something because there's this really hot dude, and his name is Nick, and he's like, okay, you're freaked out. Let's take you up. Let's get you cleaned up.
He's with a slightly lesser hot business dude.
Yeah.
Name, what was it, Phil? Jim.
Jim is beta hot business dude.
Yeah.
And so, like, let's take you to a furnished office. So he takes her up to the president's suite, which is furnished. And this woman is a fucking dingbat, okay? She does not figure out that Nick is the president.
No.
She does not. Even though he's, like, drinking the liquor and shit, she does not figure this shit out. He's ordering everybody around, and he tells her that he's an engineer, which is evidently true, but not obviously the whole truth. So what she does is she's like, oh, I'm going to go in the bathroom and freshen up. And they think I'm like 12, because everybody thinks that she's 12 in this. But I'm going to show them how fucking hot I am. So she, like, neatens herself up, but, like, hot neatens herself up. And she's got, like, spare pantyhose and stuff. And she comes out, and Nick is like, whoa, because he was about to give her, like, just tonic water. He's like, I guess I'll put some gin in this for you.
It's upsetting.
Yeah, just the fact that the book keeps saying how young she looks. It's not that she's... I mean, this is not an unusual age difference. He's, like, 36, which, by the way, is bullshit. But... I mean, like, it's
like
not
13 years, yeah. Okay.
It's not at all an unusual age gap for these books, but the way that, like, they talk about her is really uncomfortable because she is obviously supposed to seem very young. So she's still, like a fucking idiot. She just, like, you know, wanders out with this dumb... I don't know. She's dumb as fuck. I don't know. So she goes...
Sarah, all she's had to do is play the piano and be hot.
Well,
she hasn't developed a personality.
We don't even know she's any good at playing the piano. All we know is that she paid her tuition for the years it takes to get a master's degree.
Yeah.
So the next day, she goes, you know, and she's about to go.
She is thirsty from the jump, though. She sees him, and she is like, that is it. That's my dude.
And, I mean, so I forget exactly. She gets immediately called back and said, hey, guess what? You're hired.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the fuck? And she's like, yeah, the president wants you. Or did they say that it was Nick?
I don't know. The bitch still doesn't know. She still doesn't know.
No, she has no idea.
I think she knows that Nick is high and like that he has enough pull that he could get her a job. I think.
But I don't know. The whole thing is strange. And then she sees him as she's walking back to her car.
The Trans Am.
And she's like, hey, Nick. And he's like,
oh, wait a minute. Before this, Philip, old
Mr.
Moneybags is like, hey, I got this apartment, but people keep breaking into it.
Well, no, my dear great aunt lives in it, but she's away on the continent.
Yeah, he's like, but people keep breaking into it, so if you'll just watch out for the place.
And so the idea is that what they want her to do is, like, once you get the job, because of course they don't want it to go back to, currently she's staying at Philip's house, but they don't want that to be her address because, like, that would blow the whole thing. So she's supposed to be staying at this, she's going to go back to Missouri, get all of her stuff, and move in to this apartment. So she's not there yet. No. She doesn't move into the apartment until after the thing happens. So she's about to drive home to Missouri.
Pied-à-terre.
Yeah.
That's where she moves into.
Yes. So she sees Nick. Hey, Nick. And then she says, let me take you out to dinner. I just got a job. And he's like, oh, good for you. And then she says, you get whatever you want. I can afford it. So he takes her to this place, Tony's. And Tony's like, it's me,
Tony.
Oh, my God. And,
the Lauren, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Lauren. Come in. Oh, you are Italian. I know you are Italian. You are the You have your own table.
That. And, I mean, obviously, 100%. Like, he's known Nick, like, forever. And so Nick is obviously a VIP at this restaurant. But, yeah, like, it's as if it were very unusual to come into contact, like, just run across Italian people in America. See, her mom had been Italian, so she speaks fluent Italian, and okay, fine, you know. But like, how often do you come across somebody who like is of Italian descent in America? All the fucking time, y'all. It's not that. Anyway, but he loses his fucking mind when he finds out that she's. And I mean, maybe he feels protective over her because she looks like she's 12 and she's eating lunch with a shark, and she keeps being like, "No, you get whatever you want. It's my treat." And you know, they get like it's not anything particularly fancy. It's like what do you call it? Beef with au jus, the sandwich.
Oh yes, this is my favorite part. So
French dips.
This is the sexy. They get the sexiest lunch you can imagine. So we're gonna get French dips,
and he orders for her.
This bitch describes these French dips like they are fromage and champagne. Like she is like the succulent roast beef, thinly sliced.
I just imagine them like hogging it up,
dipping it into the au jus, and I was like, "This is fucking amazing."
And then she sees the check and like shits her pants.
Like this, yeah, I'm not spending a lot of money on a French dip. Like
I'm not spending a lot of money on a good French dip.
No. Like,
I don't want any little fatty bits on it, though.
You know what? I'm not, a French dip is not a thing I'm ever ordering. I don't enjoy it, but anyway.
If I know it's really good, I'll order it. But, like, it's often so disappointing.
Wait a minute. The fact that this Italian man who was is like, the best thing we have on the menu is the French dip. And I was like,
well, you know, it might not even be an Italian restaurant. They're just Italian people.
No, that is a fucking Italian restaurant. They described the red and white checkered tablecloth.
I bet it's got that wicker Chianti bottle.
Oh, yeah. It is.
But he tells her, like, you're family now, and like, you come back and we'll get you, you know, I mean, like, and his sons are all, like, about to marry her. It's this whole
Lori,
thing.
Lori, I love you, Lori. Like, yeah.
So that happens. I forget if he finally grabs the check or if she does succeed in paying it. I think she does pay it.
I mean...
But then he's like, guess what? I'm going to go to this big house party. Why don't you come with me? And she's like, I had to go to Missouri to get my stuff, but I guess I can just make a stopover, right? And so he, get this, drives her car. They don't even discuss it. He just drives her fucking car.
That is, like, the other point is that they're going to, like, the fucking, like, they're going to the UP, like, they're going from Detroit to 5 hours later.
Yeah, it's not close.
They're going to the peninsula, and, like, yeah, I mean, obviously he drives her Trans Am, which rude, but also, like, she doesn't know where the fuck she's going, and she's just like, okay, fine.
She's going to the second location with a man she met on a deserted construction site at night.
Yes, after she has beguiled Chef Boyardee, she's like, now it's just like, it has been a busy fucking day.
Yeah.
Like, she gets a job, she sees the man of her dreams. They go to Chef Boyardee's. Like, she has French dips, and now they're taking a 5-hour fucking drive to the UP.
Yeah. And then when she gets there, it's like a super, like, rich people party. And she still hasn't figured it out, by the way. She has no idea. It is so long into this book before she figures out who Nick is. So long. And so, yeah, like, they get there, and she's like, these people I don't have anything to wear to any of this. And because they're like about to dress for dinner. And he's like, okay, well, why don't you go with Babs or whoever? Because everybody's named something like that at this fucking party. And I'll have a dress sent over. And she's like, okay. And okay, this is like the first of many outfits. We will talk about the outfits later, but the outfits in this book are good.
Yeah.
So she's feeling herself in this outfit. And then she goes down and she's like, all these people I was overhearing, they all have so much business with you. Oh my God, is it because you're such a good engineer? You really shouldn't let them monopolize you like that. So it's like she works out this thing where like she's gonna like rescue him from all these people who want to talk to him, which that was all kind of cute and all.
It was cute. She has like a couple drinks and, you know, she's feeling good, feeling herself.
And there's people, like, there's a French lady who's taken off her skirt to play tennis in her heels and underpants.
Her sequin underpants. I was like, yes.
I mean, that's fine and all, but the heels, I don't know, girl.
You know what? If you could play tennis in sequin underpants and heels, like, I'd be showing that shit off, too.
But, like, you worry about the girl through all this. I mean, that's the thing. It should have been a fun scene, but she was so naive, and so, you know. And so he's like, I'm going to have you tonight. And they end up making out at, like, a rest stop on the way up. Like, so you know it's going to go down.
Yeah, but he's like, you're too drunk, and he leaves her at whoever the fuck's house they're at, and he goes to another house, and he's like, his house on the cove, and he's like, okay, if you want to fuck, meet me tomorrow at noon. And,
Don't be late.
she's like, well, I'm going to make him worry. I'll be there at 12:30. It's very naive and it's very young.
And then it turns out that she has to wait for other people to get in their cars and move them before she can go. And then she's like, "Oh my God, he
So she doesn't get there till like 1, and and the house is on a fucking cliff, and bitch still has no clue. No clue.
No clue. He's borrowing it from somebody evidently. Maybe he built it. I don't know.
You know what? No, like cliff houses automatically. Cliff houses are one or two things. They're about to fall down in their shanties or their mansions.
Yes.
There is no in between. If you have a moderately priced cliff house, please let me know, because
It's because you didn't used to, and the cliff house that was super expensive the cliff fell down, and now the cliff is at your house.
Yes,
That's the only way you have a moderately priced cliff house.
Exactly. So
I guess the leper in the last book that we read actually had a cliff house.
he did. Yeah, we
They didn't mention the cliff until somebody fell over it, but it was a cliff house. So, and I'm picturing like this super, it's gonna be that like white, really modern, with white. Evidently that wine's not great. Courtney's making a face. Well. Like everything is like really, really simple, and it has white carpets that I guess they just replace once a week or whatever. So it's like that house, and she goes, and it's actually quite sweet. Like he takes her sailing. There's a picnic, all this.
He talks about his mom.
Yeah, but then they like, he's like, "You're gonna do it," and she's like, the whole thing was it was very realistic.
She's secret virgin.
Yeah, she's secret virgin, and what she's trying to do, and I guess what he kind of knows that she's trying to do is try to act more sophisticated than she is, and he is acting like exactly what he is, which is an extraordinarily rich mid-30s asshole. So like it's not that he thinks that she's playing like a big game or anything. It's that like he just figures she'll be fine, and he didn't know that she was a virgin. So, and it's like, she enjoys it, but she kind of, I guess, obviously expects more cuddling and, that kind of thing. And it was kind of more, transactional is the wrong word.
Yeah.
But she did not get the aftercare that she was kind of hoping for, but then she was like, well, I guess that's just what it's like, and, and then he's like, I just heard from somebody, I gotta go.
And he's like, if you have any, like, if you
get pregnant, call me.
And he finds out after they have done it that she's a virgin, and then they do it again. And then, the next morning, he just flips the switch. He had told her, like, the whole night, like, he's doing that thing. He's like, I've watched you. I feel like it's been an eternity. Like, does all the things that a young woman wants to hear. And then the next day, he's like, well, yeah, you got to see yourself out. Bye. And then for like a week or 2 weeks after, she just keeps waiting by the phone.
She knits him a sweater. Yeah. So the sweater is real sad. And I mean, like, there's already this thing in knitting that you don't knit, like, a guy a sweater if you just met him, or even if you didn't just meet him, because by the time you're done with this goddamn fucking grown man sweater, which takes forever, you're gonna have broken up with him, and then you're gonna have to stare at this fucking sweater all the time. And who the hell are you gonna give it to? It's made to fit him.
So this part,
it's really, it's upsetting because it's a little too realistic.
And then she's been working for Jim, who's awesome, and she keeps waiting for Nick to call, and she's like, oh, he'll call this day, and this day and this day. And finally, she realizes he's not going to call, and, she has her little breakdown, but she's like, I'm going to throw myself into work. And so,
and she's doing a good job. And so Jim is a bit of that, like, Gordon Gekko, like, asshole, but like in a softer, rounder way,
and in a more consensual way.
Yeah, so Jim is okay. Jim is all right.
Yeah, Jim's awesome. And so they have a really good working relationship, and it's while she's, like, putting files away that she finds a file. Like, she has to put something in a file, and she realizes who Nick is.
And it takes, this is a while into this book.
Like, we're good, like, third way in the book. And then she's like, oh, I'm such a fool,
Well, you kind of are.
You are a fool. You are.
And then, and she ends up having to work closely with him, huh?
Oh, well, no, yeah, so what happens is, I will say, because she's the fucking dippiest doest, at the beginning, Nick shows up, sees her and is like, hey.
And she gives him the business.
Oh, and she at first is like, I don't want to ever see him again.
Oh, I want my fucking earrings back. She left her mother's earrings.
Yeah. Well, hold on. So she tells Jim, once she realizes who he is, she's like, I'm never going to see him again. And Jim's like, well, we have to go to boss secretary dance.
Oh, yes.
There's some
Wear your sluttiest outfit.
There's
Like
some kind of fancy party for just the bosses and secretaries.
no underpants.
I was like, this is a key party, is what you're talking about.
Yes, it was. Oh my god! And all the secretaries are about 12. And
Yeah, and she does a really good job of like at the secretary ball of like kind of, you know, not really. She does a good job of like being nonchalant with Nick until she's like, she just needs a breather. She's like, I just need to, you know, take a break. And she's in a little room and somebody comes in and she tells Jim, she's like, am I doing okay? And he's like, you're doing great. And it's Nick. And he's like, I want to bang you and you want to bang me.
like, first I want my fucking earrings back.
Yeah, and that's what she
My
says.
mother's earrings.
She gives him the business, and it's really good. Like,
And then she found out that he has like a, you know, the socialite girlfriend.
what she thinks is, the socialite girlfriend, Erica.
And also she finds out that like that's whose house it was. It turns out actually later that he was selling it. But still, that's where she left her earrings.
Yes.
They were her mother's earrings. Like, fuck you, Nick. Fuck the fuck out of you.
Yeah, and so after that run-in, you know, she's still trying to avoid him, and, you know, all of a sudden he's on the Italian job. But now,
Well, and they do move into that building, evidently.
Yeah.
So it becomes really clear that he owns the parent company.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
Global industry.
She is actively trying to stay away from him. He's like, I need someone who speaks Italian. You've got to come be part of this.
Well, actually, no, he didn't know that was going to be her. He thought it was going to be some other secretary who spoke Italian, but then she was called off on some other job.
Yeah.
So he didn't know she spoke Italian. So to be fair, like, so it was a surprise for both of them. Like,
yeah.
oh, fuck you. Fuck, whatever.
And basically, for the next however many weeks, he makes her life a living hell because he is just a lecherous asshole.
Yep.
And there comes a point where she tells him point blank, she's like, look, an affair for you is just going to be an affair. It is going to ruin me. It is going to break my heart. I will get emotionally attached. Please, please, please stop. And the next day he shows up at her door and is doing the same
And he
fucking
likes
thing.
to talk a big game about how, you know, nobody, well, especially after she's like, I was a virgin, and he says, oh, nobody wants a virgin anymore. Well, people want a sexually experienced woman. So he tells her all this stuff about how, like, you know, a woman should be sexually adventurous and all this stuff. Like, you know,
But a good 75, like 50 pages of this book is him, like, being that Matt Lauer creep, like, just...
It turns out he does have a door in his office that closes with a button on his desk.
And then, you know, like, the secretary, his real secretary gets the wrong idea about her, and, you know, Jim, which is very close to Jeff.
I know. I was thinking about that for you.
Has to clean it up. He has to go in and clean it up. But you find out that Jim has a thing for Erica. So maybe they have a...
I hope they do, because I like Jim a lot.
Jim
and so
was
Jim
great.
has this whole thing like, okay, fine, let's make him think that you're seeing me.
Oh, yeah. There's this
It's just
great
real
part
cute.
where, like, you know... Lauren puts it out on the table. She's like, you know what I was doing, like, those 2 weeks that, like... She's like, I was knitting you a sweater. I was doing all this. Like, I am invested. And, you know,
But she gives it to Jim for his birthday, which is also weird.
you know what? Like, she's like, rather have the sweater. So he's wearing the sweater. And he knows. Jim knows. And, like, he pulls a move right when Nick sees it. And then Nick just calls her, like, a bitch. And just that... He takes her in the office and he's just like, you're a two-faced bitch and blah, 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 blah. You've been sleeping with everybody else. Like, it is insane. His reaction is insane and toxic. But it's wild. This book is wild, and, like, I have already, like, erased a lot of it from my memory because this was one of those that, like, bothered me. So,
And well, meanwhile, you've got the whole espionage thing running in the background.
Espionage.
Because, like, Philip will have her over for dinner, and she hasn't said anything about what's going on, but she does happen to drop this thing about the Italian.
She just
like,
says something,
by
accident.
they need an Italian.
She's like, oh, Nick's going to be away in Italy. And Philip's like, oh, really? To his son, you know, the son I'm just going to call Spalding because he's very much like Spalding from Caddyshack, you know? Like, Spalding, get your foot off the boat. Get him just like, that's what I imagine Philip and the son to be is those two.
Promoted far beyond his competence and experience.
So I don't even remember how they hook up because it was just so... Blah.
Well, it was You know what? I don't either.
So, okay, she does, like, Nick goes out of town for a few days, and, you know, what? I mean, Lauren, again, keeps giving him the business and is like, leave me the fuck alone. She's like, you know what I want? I want my earrings. I want those earrings back. And he comes back with, like, some pearl earrings, and she's like, this is not, she's like, look, they might have been cheap and stupid to you, but they were something that, you know, was worth something to me because they were my mom's. I don't want this, whatever this is. And then
she fucking feels bad about that later.
But then he's like, well, I gave you something that belonged to my, you know.
Well, you didn't fucking say so, asshole. Oh, my God. So finally...
Well, hold on. What happens in this book is all of the emotional development for Nick happens through other people. So her and Mary, the secretary who hated her at first, you know, but once she found out, like...
that she was not interested in riding that dick.
Yeah, well, she's like, I think he loves you because he's so cruel to you. Very, you know... Anyway, so they go to Tony's. Tony's, and Tony's like, oh, it's a Lori. Lori is here. And like, so we hear this very sad story about Nick's mom, who is a rich socialite, married a very poor man, and, you know, she had the baby. She got pregnant, and she immediately hated it because the father refused to live off of anything else but, like, what he earned, which is, you know, male machismo bullshit. But... the father drops dead. The son's about 4 years old, and she's like, peace out. And she just goes back to Grosse Point.
Yeah, leaves him with his grandparents.
Grosse Point. And leaves him with the grandparents. And then there's this very terrible story that, you know what? It's a terrible story. The son tries to, like, basically Nick goes and tries to buy his mother's affection, and she is having none of it. And so, of course, Lauren falls more and more in love with him.
Then she feels bad about spurning the gift. Like, no, fuck it. Fuck, no, Lauren, stop.
Yeah,
stop.
But, like, again, all this...
He doesn't give gifts to women.
Yeah.
He just gives you money and tells you to buy something for yourself.
Yeah. And so...
you can see how bad this wine is.
Through all this, it's just very sweet. Like, through all this, I don't even, like... what happens is he realizes... okay...
oh, it smells sweet.
I thought it was a Pinot Grigio. Isn't it a Pinot Grigio?
Well, it says it's a... yeah, it says it's a Pinot Grigio.
I'm drinking it because it's open. Oh, I don't want to open another thing, but Jesus Christ, it's sweet. And you know,
yeah.
You know how I feel about a sweet wine. Okay.
All right.
Hold on. Let me figure this out. So what happens is Nick is yet again away on business. Lauren comes clean to Jim. She tells him about how she got. So during the course of this lunch with Mary, and Mary telling this very sad story about Nick trying to buy his mother's affection, it comes out the name of his mother.
It's at the very end of the conversation.
Which is Carol Jennings.
We're talking about Carol Whitworth.
Whatever. Carol. She knows the name. And Lauren immediately recognizes it. She goes like white as a sheet, and she's like, I've got to go. And she just runs out of the restaurant, and she goes to work, and she's like, I'm going to have to resign. She's like, I'm going to have to leave. Once Nick finds out, like...
oh, by the way, there's also the security team is like getting...
yeah, there's like these random dudes that
whatever.
are like...
it doesn't matter.
They've done a background check on her, and they're like, this doesn't add up. So,
because she lied about not having a college degree.
Right. And so she sees Jim. Jim sees her hysterical writing a resignation letter, and he's like, what's going on? And so she comes clean to him. She tells him, she's like, look, you know, I was supposed to do this. And he's like, what the fuck? And he's like, well, have you done any of that? And she's like, no. She's like, I tried to tank the interview. Like, you know, she tells him.
I completely forgot that she had told him.
And so he's like, okay, well, it's, you know, he's like, you're not going to resign. It's okay. We'll figure it out. And she's like, well, how can I tell Nick? Nick will never love me, you know. And he's like, yeah, he will. Just, you know. So
at some point in this, and I don't remember if this is before or after, Nick comes to her apartment.
Yes. Well,
in his suede.
Again, Jim, who does all the emotional labor for everyone, it's everyone else who does the emotional growing for Nick. Jim tells Nick that Lauren is going to resign, and Nick gets on a flight immediately, and he comes, you know, he has realized at this point that he is in love with her. And so he comes to the apartment, confesses his love, and he's like, I love you so much. We're going to get married. You are the person for me. Da-da-da-da. Like, I love you.
And she delightfully gives him the business. She tells this story, and I think it's at this point where she's like, yeah, I used to think that I wanted a fucking monkey.
Yeah.
And so I begged my parents for a monkey. And you know what? They bought me a monkey, because obviously it was the 70s, I guess. And you know what? The fucking monkey fucking bit her. And she's like, yeah. And then I found out I didn't want a monkey. And I just had to assume that she had to keep the monkey anyway. You know?
And he's like, well, let me prove it to you by not having sex with you immediately, but we're going to do it later on this evening. So he gets her dressed up for a fancy party.
And she has, like, by the way, this entire wardrobe full of stuff that the quote-unquote great aunt left. And then,
this, like...
and I don't understand why she didn't realize
because she's the dumbest. She's the most...
Yeah, because he was like, oh, well, get rid of whatever the fuck you want to get rid of.
Because she is the most...
It's all really young, very fashionable, extremely expensive stuff.
Trans Am driving dumb bitch.
I mean, if that had actually been somebody's who had not just been kicked out, don't you think that they would care if their clothes were thrown away?
So,
oh my god, she's so stupid.
So her and Nick go to this fancy party, and...
They run into Philip Wentworth there.
Yeah, Philip. And... Philip pretends not to know Lauren, and Lauren is, like, very scared to tell Nick anything. So they go back to their apartment, her apartment, and her and Nick do it. And again, he's like, I'm going to marry you. I love you so much because you give me the business and da-da-da-da-da. And she still has not said anything to him. Again, let us remind you that Jim fucking knows.
I forgot Jim knew.
So the next day, Philip...
I'm thinking of a good time to tell him.
Philip takes her to lunch to Tony's.
Does not get a good table.
And, we do not have a good table. You got to be by the serving table. And so Philip blackmails her and is like, I'm going to ruin him. I'm going to ruin you. I'm going to ruin everyone if you don't get these quotes. I need these quotes.
Well, it was like a proposal. Like
I'm going to call them quotes. So, and she's like,
what we want is the first page of each thing.
Frenetic, like piano major reaction. Instead of going to Jim and being like, hey, I just got motherfucking blackmailed, what she does is she makes fake copies of everything.
Like, she alters them with whiteout, and then, like, she's like, well, you won't see it on the photocopy.
The most foolproof of plans.
Yes. Well, many people come to the public library with this same most foolproof of plans. So, I mean, it is perpetual. It is.
And so, meanwhile, this do nothing security team and the guy in it, they keep bringing up the guy being ill.
Yeah, like he's like having heart attacks or something. So it's like the young dude who's like,
oh my god. So,
but they are trailing her, and they do like get like the photocopies that she made and threw in the trash and like all this sort of thing.
Yeah, but so what happens is,
and they take photos of her passing them to Philip.
So this evidence gets taken to Nick, who, instead of asking fucking questions, summons her.
Well, this part I kind of get.
No, I don't.
I do. I mean, come on.
He summons her to the office where he acts like he does this, like, sex trap. Where
I know. Like, this part is gross. Yeah.
He's like, hey. And, she's, like, all into it. And then he, like, fucking grabs her by the hair, pulls her down to, like, his face level, and, like, calls her all kinds of names and, like, accuses her of being, because she's living in the apartment that Philip set up, she's his mistress, she is all of these things. And then everyone else immediately turns on her. Mm-hmm. Mary turns on her, Jim turns on her. Who knew? She told Jim all of the shit. And, he's having security taking her out, and he's basically like, good thing you're a good fucker, I'd see you. And like, she doesn't have her coat. Well, they do go back to get her coat, but before that can happen, she just like runs away screaming or whatever. They're like, well, they're basically, she gets thrown out the door, and Jim sees her, and then she tells him what happens, and he calls her, names, and then he's like, well, at least let me give you your coat. And she's like, fuck you, I don't want anything from you. So she walks in, Detroit, like, winter weather, because it's near Christmas, for 8 blocks, and, ends up, and it's raining. It's like 40 degrees, one of those 30, in the upper 30s, lower 40s. Like, it's cold, it's rainy. And she gets to Tony's, and collapses.
Where they really do treat you like family, evidently.
I mean,
To be fair, they take care of her.
Yeah.
And so Tony calls up Nick. He's like, "You piece of fucking shit."
Well, he's also like, Tony says, I heard the conversation.
Yeah.
And Nick's like, I don't want to hear it. And he calls
But
Mary.
with nobody, what she does not say to anybody, she has plenty of opportunity to tell people all this time, I didn't give them the numbers. I faked the numbers. I didn't give them. She does not say that.
But at the same time, like, nobody's giving her the chance to say any fucking thing. Mary's like, trash, hang up. Jim, trash, hang up. And finally, she gets her purse. Like, she's able to get her purse. She's able to get some of her belongings, and she just dips back to Missouri. And Tony keeps calling. Tony, who helped fucking raise Nick. Mm-hmm. Nick tells Tony, I'll foreclose on your building if he brings this up again.
And finally, everybody has to have an intervention for him.
But no, all of them are pieces of shit. Yeah. All of them. I hate everybody in this book because Tony, who is the one male figure at, like, aside from, like, Nick's grandfather, like, he is the person who has been the most constant with Mary in this piece of shit's life, is trying to tell you something and you're not listening to it. So finally, the security guys realize, we did a bad job. And so all of them are in the room together.
And Nick's barely letting anybody talk. Like, they all had to come together to get Nick because, like, he can't ignore us all,
Yeah, they all had pieces of information. And they all, like, shared these pieces of information. So the book jump cuts to, like, Missouri, Christmas, and, Nick shows up at the door of Lauren's house. I call her Lori because that's what Tony calls her. And Tony's the only, like, person that actually fucking cares about her in this book.
That's true.
I got problems with this, too. So I have a lot of problems with this book, people. So Nick shows up, and it's supposed to be, he flew in a blizzard, and then he had to drive in the Missouri, like, back roads, and it took him a long time. That's his fucking penance. So he gets to the house. Her stepbrother answers the door, and the stepbrother also cares about her because he's like, get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. Get the fuck out of here. But then her dad shows up, and he's like, let him talk. I wanted one of those two men to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Somebody should have punched him in the face. He comes into the living room, and Lori is, like, decorating the tree. She sees him, and she pants. She's like, get out. And he keeps chasing her around the tree, and finally just grabs her and is like, I'm so sorry. I love you. And then he tries, like, basically what he does, and fine, fair. Like, he's bought her gifts. He's got her a big ass ruby and diamond pendant, and she's like, the only other person he's bought a gift for is his mother, and he's, and she forgives him, and he's gotten her earrings back. And he's also like, I bought you a matching set. Like, he keeps throwing. He's like, I'll buy you a piano. I'll buy you whatever. He ought to. He's like, I'm so sorry. Mary says she won't work for me anymore if you don't come back. Jim says he'll quit. But I was like, no.
I can't eat any more French dips at Tony.
I was like, all of these motherfuckers need to come back and, like, penance too. Because they're all pieces of shit. And the book ends with, like, this is the best Christmas gift I could have gotten, which is you. Blah. All right, so
question time.
Okay.
So, oh my goodness, big dick energy or big dick energy?
I hated him. I might put him up there with, like, the Flame and the Flowers.
Oh, he's not as bad as the Flame and the Flowers.
No, there's something.
That dude just raped her.
There's something about this guy. You know what it is, I think, is because I feel like this book was, like, more centered in, like, a reality, and a reality that we all know.
That's true.
And a reality that we have all experienced, like, or a lot of us have experienced, about a guy who's, like, will do whatever, and then, I don't know, like, the whole sexual coercion and him just pressuring her I really hated it. I really hated it because
I didn't mind it as much when it was like just them, the two of them being like, are we going to have sex? You know, in other words, it's like they're on an equal playing field. What I didn't, the part that did make me angry is when she is in a role as his secretary and he's doing things like embarrassing her on conference calls and stuff.
But also like how, like,
that's what I didn't like about it.
Honestly, like when the book first, like after they first had sex and he had such an about face, I thought that he had found out about the spy thing because he goes from being this like really charming debonair guy and telling her how much he wants her to basically just being like, yeah, thanks, bye. And I hate this man. Like he is, and again, I think it's because he's, you know, because it's a book that is more set, you know, it's set in a contemporary whatever, it's something that hits more realistically.
What sound did your dog just make?
I don't know.
Well, okay, what I thought was interesting was what the book was trying to do, which essentially the book was, it's called Double Standards. And there's a bit in it where essentially the book is like he's saying that he doesn't have double standards because he's saying, yeah, I fuck around at all and you can too and you should too. And I mean, like, you know, it's the 80s. Nobody wants a virgin. Like, you should be sexually experienced. You should be, you know, out there living your life. Yeah, you should have lovers. Go ahead. But then it turns out he does have double standards because, like, when he thinks that she's been doing that, he goes fucking crazy in a scary way.
I mean, he slut shames her, and she didn't. Like, she was talking about him, but he says, like, again, the way that he talks and the way that he acts is a very centered in reality, toxic masculinity that is extremely harmful.
I wonder if this one just bothered you though because it was a contemporary. Because to me, he seemed a lot just like your standard '80s awful romance guy. That like he's super alpha, and so people at the time like had.
I think it's also, you know, if you've listened to our last episode where we talk about Adam Corbin, who has done worse things, way worse things, because and it's the thing that, you know, we always talk about on the episodes, like when everybody is dialed up to 11, those kind of toxic masculinity things hit different. But when, like, this book seemed very centered in like how a girl who is 23 would react. It's very much how a girl who is 23 would react.
It almost has two different levels in it though, because her at the beginning of the book, oh god, cringe. But then, like in the middle of the book, she learns how to give him what the fuck for, and then it feels much more equal because he's all like coming on, and she's like, "No, asshole," you know.
Yeah, I think
so. At the middle of the book, I really feel they were much more equals.
I wish that this book had a time skip.
Yeah,
like I wish that this had been, you know, a thing where
second chance romance, right?
Yeah, like where she had been 18, he had been 25, and then they meet when she's 26 and he's 36, or, you know, something. Because I felt, for me, I had a real big issue with how young she's written. And it's not necessarily the numeric age. It's just her kind of...
She doesn't feel like a woman with a master's degree.
Her naive... Yeah, like how naive she is. And just... It was painful for me. This book was painful for me in a lot of ways. Like, I like the parts... Like, I was really triggered by his little sad, you know, going to, like, abandoned mom story. Not that I was abandoned, but, you know, like, just dealing, like the whole child thing. This was this was a little bit of a slog, but... he's in that throw, like, he kind of, because, you know, I am a little bit of shiny things. Like, all right, yeah, you came correct with the big ass. And they did describe it, like, the diamond pennant was the size of, like...
Oh, it was ridiculous. You could never wear it anywhere. You would have to do what we do. Like, we had 2 books in a row that has a plot point, like people getting their amazing jewelry, like, redone in paste so they could actually wear it.
Yeah.
It'd be like that.
Yeah, so, I mean, he does come correct when he comes to Missouri, when he comes with the baseball diamond, as I'll call it.
It's probably cursed.
And the matching earrings. And he's like, you want a piano? I'll buy you a piano. You want a whatever? I'll buy, you know, like, I was there for that part. But, like, other than that, he was the worst. But I do think it is interesting that it could have been a really interesting point, like you said, with the double standards, but then I was like, oh, like, this is kind of cool. Like, I kind of wish she had fucked somebody in between.
I really do, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been a more interesting story.
Yeah, I do too. I thought I liked mid-book Lauren a lot. I mean, like her relationship with him, like, they were much more on an even footing, even though they actually weren't, of course, because she was a secretary, but, like, she could have left, I mean, if she really wanted to. Like, it didn't feel gross like it did in the beginning or like it did in the end. So maybe I just have a better memory of, like, the mid-book.
Well, I think we're bringing all of our, like, different kind of experiences to it, too. Okay. Would you talk shit with or about the heroine?
I liked her in the middle, like I just said. Like when she was like, yeah, and my parents bought me the fucking monkey, and then the monkey bit me.
Yeah, I hated her in the beginning because she was just so simpering. But it was like, again, maybe it's that, I don't know.
You're just going to go to a second location with a man you just met and you think might work in the building? Like, you don't even know anything about, and you let him drive your car?
your Trans Am. Lauren of the Trans.
I will say, we just showed my son Karate Kid this past week, and when Daniel gets that car from Mr. Miyagi, and it's really a big deal, the first thing he does is let his girlfriend drive it.
Yes.
Which is like the opposite, because that movie is very much about deconstructing masculinity, and this is the opposite.
Yes. I mean, we could do a whole episode of my love of Karate Kid stuff.
But she's fine. I mean, like, you know, I think when she gets frisky, I like her. But.
I think, in the beginning, when her only personality trait is being beautiful, like, that's annoying. But yeah, when she gets, when she's speaking Italian, when she's giving him the business, when she has, like, actual interest, that makes her interesting.
Yeah, I did appreciate that. Back to Elda Bitch. There are actually a lot of female characters in this, good and bad.
Yeah.
They mostly talk about Nick, but then again, it's like 300 pages, so, But, so there's Mary, who is his real secretary, and, because all these, like, executives, they'll have, like, a titty secretary, and then they'll have a real secretary.
Who's, like, some war-battered lady,
yes.
like... That's shaped like a brick.
Yes. She's got her support hose on, and her ankles are just like her feet are just like rising out above the shoe.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. And then Erica, who I think is supposed to be, I think Erica gets the book.
I hope she does.
She's always really. Here's the thing, like, Lauren makes assumptions, but also, like, that's what the media does. Like, Erica has no beef with Lauren. Like, she's like, oh, your dress is so pretty. You're like, oh, I'm so glad that, like, she's just friends with Nick.
And they have, like, a business relationship, like an actual business relationship. Yeah. All these people are just, like, business incestuous.
Eric and Jim have a thing. And so I think they get
I would read their
thing.
book.
Yes. I think that would be a much more interesting book because it's two grown-ass people.
Yes. I'm always about the two grown-ass people thing. There's also so Carol is a see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, we have that. We have the.
But I mean, like they're not at war against with a man or anything. She's just a bitch.
Yeah, we have the Muddy Hunger.
They don't have they're not rivals over somebody's affections or whatever. She just fucking hates her.
Yeah,
which I appreciate in a woman.
But then we also have there's, because he's Nick, a.k.a. Nikki, and then there was some woman calling a Southern woman named Vicky, and, Lauren hates her. It's, because he's a womanizer. But, I mean, it could have been, her and Mary are interesting, but Mary is just there to be, like, a plot device. So.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. I wish we'd gotten more scenes as her as an adult with Carol.
Like I was telling you, like, the other thing is that my problem is that everybody who loves the fuck out of Lauren... Like I said,
they were very quick to believe the worst of her.
Yeah. So, okay.
So when it comes to consent, is this book more Robin Thicke or Marvin Gaye?
Oh, this is a Robin Thicke book.
Is it really, though?
Yeah, okay.
She goes along with it. I mean, she doesn't say.
I feel like we have very different, like, my issues with this.
I've been grading on a curve because this is a romance novel with an executive from 1984.
Oh, I mean, I totally get it. But I think, again, my biggest problem is that it's very realistic. And the virginity scene is it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. The day after and how he treats her. I mean, like, obviously it's not, like, obviously he doesn't assault her. Obviously. She is in it. That is my dog panting. Who wants to
We're not that into this scene.
she wants to be up in this like 88-degree room with us. I don't know why. Go downstairs. It's cold. So I think, again, what bothers me the most about this is it reminds me a lot of growing up, becoming a young woman in the late 90s, early 2000s, like the early aughts, and not really knowing, like, it's very real in, like, well, I want him to like me.
You're trying to act sophisticated.
Yes.
And you know that to be sophisticated in the modern age is, to be a variety of things, all of which are sexual and all of which are...
How callous he was with her the day after, when he knew she was a virgin. He'd already found out, but the way that he just dismissed her.
And we never got a good explanation for that.
I think
that was a mistake in the writing. I kind of feel like there was a scene that was missing or something.
Like, that to me, I was
where
like...
we were going to find out why, and then we never did.
Like I said, I thought that he had already found out. I thought he got a phone call and figured out that she was a spy and was like, get the fuck out of here.
I almost want... Because they also, like, knew her name at the beginning, so I wonder if there was, like, a draft or something that just didn't quite...
Because he is so dismissive and so... cruel to her.
And it was obviously meant to be cruel because they didn't use any protection, and he's like, yeah, well, if you find out you're pregnant, make sure you let me know.
Yeah, and so, like, for me, again...
By the way, giving her no contact information at all.
It just really, for this, like, this book hit me in a weird place, I guess. Like, I've had a creepy boss, so I get it. Like, I think that's it, too. Like, I've had, like... that kind of, this...
And he keeps calling her back up, like, to monopolize her time in his office.
I mean, and I think it's, especially with all, like, again, like you called it earlier, like the Me Three, and,
No, he's never, he's never all the way Matt Lauer.
No, I mean, like, but you know what? He's more in that, like, what makes him, to me, dangerous is he's not in, like, that... Weinstein, Matt Lauer situation. He's more like that Philip Roth, like just a creep. He's just a creep, and he likes being a creep, and he knows he can get away with it.
He's an asshole, and he thinks he's a charming asshole.
And when he calls her a bitch in the book, I was like, because again, there's no real language like that up until that point.
No, yeah, there's not. There's really not.
I mean, because, like, again, if you take it back to, like, let's say Banner O'Brien, where it's like, oh, yeah, bastard, I hate you. And, like, oh, you crazy bitch. Like, they're both insane. And
I love how you threw a little bit of the Tony accent.
I did. That's my thing. Yeah. It's like, but, like, when people are both dialed up, but, like, I mean, again, like, this man is toxic as fuck. And I'm like, do not have children with him. He is terrible. Like, he needs to be in therapy. Like, so, anyway.
But the book, the consent in the book, when they have sex, it is always consensual.
Yes.
Although, I mean, it is that kind of consensual where she's like, I mean, I'm not sure if I guess I want, but
yeah, I feel like she has sex with him. It's not consent so much as sexual politics. Mm-hmm. I think she has sex with him because she wants him to like her.
Yeah.
And that's what really, like...
But it certainly is consensual, and like he asks her, and she says yes. So I mean, it's all. Maybe it's a little too well done. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe it's too well written because
I don't know. I think a lot of us, certainly not everybody, but a lot of us have had that like pressure to have sex with someone because we want them to like.
Or they didn't pressure you, but you pressured you, kind of.
Yeah.
Or you wanted to be the kind of person.
I don't know. He's so pressury though. Like he's so like chase her around the desk, and again when she tells him, "I don't want to do this with you because you are going to hurt me," and then he shows up to her apartment the next day and he's like, "Hey, let's fuck." I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, like the small consent is always there. Like do you want to have sex right now is always there.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, good about this book because I'm sure that there are some boss secretary books that are not. But
yes, for sure. But the sexual pressure in it was just anyway.
He's an asshole, yes.
Yeah.
So how badly are you judging your mom off for reading this book? The cover of it looks exactly like the kind of books that both my grandmothers used to read.
My grandmother would have had the other cover. She would have had the Harlequin Temptation.
The clinch. It's I mean it is actually trying to deal with a big issue at the time. Like, especially people were really wrestling with the idea of women's agency and like should you slut shame somebody for acting exactly the way that I act?
Yeah, and I mean it is, you know what, it is very it's very forward thinking and like,
except until it's not. But
until it's not. But I mean, it's trying to like where where a lot of our, like, especially our historicals, the virginity issue is, taken away so people can have sex freely. This is, trying to deal with it in a realistic way, I guess.
Yeah. But one reason he's attracted to her is that she's so fucking young. And that's the
other problem. I keep talking about how young and naive she is.
So, I mean, if she were, we've had plenty of books where somebody is 23, but they act like a person who is completely in charge of their own decisions.
Yes.
And aren't going to knit a sweater for somebody they've known, like, twice and who just, like, essentially, like, dumped them out the door.
Again, I think Banner O'Brien is approximately, like, around this age.
I hope not. She went and studied medicine with Elizabeth Blackwell.
Well,
Y'all are so confused if you didn't listen to that episode.
You have to listen to it.
There's a leprosy reveal on that episode.
But we had other books where somebody is 23 and they had a full on life.
And that's old for those medieval ladies. That we've had those.
I think that was
ladies.
is that she just seems so young. But
yeah, I mean, she actually none of her ages seemed appropriate because they all thought she was a teenager, but she has a master's degree. But
this is very this is very on brand for what Mildred Habarger would have read.
So would Scarlett Johansson have been in the movie? Everybody's white.
Everybody's white if they're not, but we got the crazy accents. Yeah, we got the Italians. The Italians that talk like this, and they make the French dips.
And of course, it's in Detroit. But there's no Detroit about it. It's like the most glamorous Detroit you've ever heard of.
It's the whitest Detroit I've ever,
And I know that Detroit was different in the 80s and will probably be different again once we all flee climate change. But
yeah. I mean, I do appreciate that they talk about, like, Grosse Pointe being ridiculous and being, like, so fucking rich. But
one thing I did think that, and I should have mentioned this at some other point, what they did, she did really well in this book, is that when, essentially, she's your main viewpoint character, you're sometimes through Nick, but mostly you're through Lauren's viewpoint, and when she meets Phil, again, for the, as an adult in the beginning of the book, he seems like a good guy. She's pleased at how much of an asshole that he isn't. But as his actions go through and she starts to see him as he is, that's really well done. Because you start out the book really thinking, and it seems to be, although it's not really clear, that perhaps there was no corporate espionage. It was the other way around. Yeah. That they really wanted her to spy. And they told her this.
I think it was to set her up she's so hot. She's gonna get their attention. You know. But yeah, again, it's color erasure. It's being in a CC, a chocolate city, where there are no people of color.
And what do these companies do? In what way are they extractive? I mean, I don't know. I mean, we heard one thing that they're doing. There's an Italian dude who has this magical formula, but he doesn't.
Indestructible Nala.
But he doesn't actually turn out to have a magical formula anyway. But what do they? That's such an 80s thing. What do you do? We do business. What kind of business do you... It's like a Marvel comic scientist. What kind of science do you have a degree in? Science?
One of my favorite memories with, he's been on the show with us before, John, is we went to go see... It was 2012, the movie 2012. Because remember that was like the Mayan or the Aztec end of the world. Yeah. So there's two amazing parts of that movie. One that we always talk about is Woody Harrelson is the nut job that knew this was coming. And our favorite line from his part,
I mean, nobody's believing Woody Harrelson,
was that he said, "Did you download my blog?" And we love that song. But then so the other part that we always talk about is that, the end of the world has happened and they're on some kind of survival boat. And the scientist, there's a guy who's the scientist that foresaw all of this. And you're in his room and he's just got a book that says science.
Oh.
And so it's very much like that, like just business.
I just do business.
Just business.
So I'm going to assume that the business that they do is somehow, I don't know, it's like Nestle plus, like it's all the worst businesses. It's the businesses that are the most like, they've caused Bhopal. It's like the business, like the pharmaceutical business from that Sidney Sheldon book that was like the most terrible business in the world.
Now you've cursed us. You've brought up Sidney Sheldon.
Oh, here we go.
But
my voice is so gross.
I think it's like the Frito-Lay business. So, yes, it's very generic business. But, yes, I think, like we said, with most of these books, the racism in it is just the color erasure. And, again, you're in Detroit. You're in a chocolate city. You're in black, P-Funk. Parliament has a song bringing you up, and there's no black people in it. So... you're not leaving the house looking like that.
There were outfits. I love a book with outfits. And we have not had an outfit book in so long. You guys, outfits. Oh my God, they're so awesome. The best one, though, is the one that she has delivered to her, which, by the way, was Erica's dress. And that's fucking shitty. She found out later. But so what it is it's like floor length and it's cream colored and real high neck in the front. And it's got them bridal points over your hands. But then in the back, it's all party in the back, baby. You can see it, can't you? I can see it.
And it's like a jersey, and it's on the original cover.
It's slinky. Yeah, you can
It's like a jersey material, and yeah, it's like that full front. It's like the Hilary Swank Oscar dress.
Now, I mean, they don't say if it has shoulder pads. I'm going to assume that it does because it's 1984. I'm going to just mentally delete those. But because, like, the back is, like, awesome. Yeah, the back is just, like, beautifully draped and full of her. I guess she doesn't need a bra.
Yes. No, I mean, she's got those young 23-year-old titties.
Yeah. Well, okay. there's other awesome outfits, too, because she has the entire mistress wardrobe.
She has the mistress wardrobe, and then he has
whole suede suits and stuff.
Yeah.
He has this orange suede jacket that she says he shows up to his house in. Oh, my God. So yeah, it's a whole, like, it's very Dynasty. It's very, like, 80s business, clothes. And I love that. Please give me more of that.
And again, she's always got her blonde hair, just,
it tells you everything the hair is doing at any given time.
Low-key, my favorite outfit was when they go sailing. She's got on shorts and she's got on a terry cloth top.
Oh, yeah. It was a terry cloth suit. I mean, it was like a top and bottom matching.
I was like a romper.
It was like orange, right? Yeah. Yes. I could see it. And it actually sounded like great.
I was like, that sounds really cute.
Yeah, it does. Would your 12-year-old self have dog-eared pages?
The sex in this is blah.
I mean, I think my 12-year-old self was desperate. It's one of those, like, reached ever new heights. It's like one of those very purple jinx.
Purple jinx. Yeah, like, again. And then, like, they have their first sex scene, and then it does the cutaways.
Yeah.
And what's surprising is, like, what she's known for, Judith McNaught, as we talked about earlier, is, like, writing super horny books. This was not a super horny book.
Well, it was a super horny book, like, maybe compared to other things, but it wasn't... Yeah, I was expecting more during it.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was not as... well, the thing is, no, there were a good number of sex scenes. It's just that they were kind of boring because they were so purple.
There's no slaughter. It's just, it's all like, yeah. It was all his virile masculinity, his potent... He was so potent. But, it was never like his D went into my pee, like, none of that.
Please don't write that sex scene for me, Courtney. His D went into my pee, and I reached ever new heights.
I don't know why I was like, I gotta keep it clean for the kids at the last minute. But, like, no, it was all just, like, he did some, like, the most graphic it really got was, like, side boob touching. And the other thing I didn't like was when he shows up to Christmas Eve and... Dad and bro are just hanging out in the house. He starts, like, really trying to get it on in the living room. I was like, her stepbrother, and her dad are in the other room. Like,
I'll point out that Ben or O'Brien was, like, fucking behind screens of every room in that house.
They were, but also those two were both fucking insane. And, like, So, again, it was that weird rooted in reality. And then, like... I think she really wanted to do like a on the rug in front of the fireplace and Christmas tree fuck scene, but we had like parents.
Yeah, I know.
So
That does make it a little awkward.
it's like, oh, we can't do it. So,
Well, I'm sure they did Christmas in, I don't know, January. I don't think he would have waited for July. What pairs nicely with a dumpster fire?
oh, you know what it is? It's the sad Cavassier that she bought. So during her like pining week, she buys like she's filling up the side piece pied à terre, and she's like, well, I need 2 glasses, and I need
Because he gave her Courvoisier, so she thought,
yeah,
I guess it was...
she's like, and again, it felt like a little girl trying to be an adult, and she's like, well, I'll buy the Cavassier because it's fancy.
Mm-hmm. So when he comes,
Yes.
I'll have something to offer him.
Yes. Oh, so sad. So we have a new question.
Yeah, so we have decided that often we do these podcasts, and then because you don't get a real idea of like, hey, should I go and read the book myself? Because sometimes we make a terrible book sound fun, and sometimes we make a book that's really fun and good. We're just like, well, it's good. I mean, so we want to let you know, should a human being in the year 2021 actually read this book?
For me, it's a no.
For me, it's a maybe. I thought it was well written. Once I got past the first the drippy Lauren, I really thought it moved quickly. I would definitely read another Judith McNaught. I would say, obviously, with a caveat that going in that it is like this the 80s secretary business, that if that does not bother you essentially, then you may enjoy this book. Courtney hated it.
I think, again, what I really disliked about it was that because it's set in a fairly contemporary setting, and because they all are, aside from, being millionaires, and I think I feel like the millionaire thing is what authors try to do to get away from, like, reality.
It's like a knight or a cowboy or a...
Yeah, I think I really did not enjoy how he was with her. I didn't enjoy that he was kind of sexually manipulative. And the other thing, and again, it would have been fine if she had skewed older, but they write her so young, and they keep talking about how young she is. And again, the whole thing of, like, waiting for him, and... if there had been a time jump where she's a little bit actually older, instead of like, well, in 2 weeks she grew up so much, because there are aspects of it I liked. I liked that, like, the things that she say to him are really, like, emotionally honest and emotionally vulnerable things. But this book did not hit me where I like to be, and I don't like again, it felt very, not quite Weinstein, but like, as I said, like, kind of in that Philip Roth, like,
I'm surprised that it bothered you so much, that morning after thing, because that happens a lot in these books. Like, it is nowhere near uncommon.
But you know what, like, I feel like what happens a lot in the books that we have is that they go so like, I'm trying to think of another one where we have a virgin situation, but what happens is they go so over the top with, like, their reactions to things that I can kind of, but, like, the things that he said to her are things that seem very, like, what a dude would say. Like, what, they seem very realistic, and that's what I didn't like about it. Like, I don't know. Again, he goes from, like, I feel like I've waited an eternity for you, to, like, he's very, like, let me put the tip in kind of guy. And then is like, peace out. And I don't know. And it was just her being so into him. I don't know. Like,
I don't understand what she saw in him, obviously.
Oh, no. Because and the other thing is we never really get a good, we just know that he's got dark chest hair and gray eyes and is virile. And that's really, we know what she looks like, but, I mean...
we get too much of what she looks like.
I mean, she's she's the girl from the Cherry Pie Warrant video, who she is, or, like, the Rock the Cradle of Love video.
I was honestly thinking Christina Applegate from Married with Children, and how she would walk in and the audience would, like, just take a minute to calm the fuck down. Yeah.
And so I think that's a little bit of it. I don't know. For me, it just was not... And when, like I said, when he's just... calls her like a bitch and just, calls her like a two-timing slutty bitch. I was like, good. Like I said, it's weird when some of these books, because we've heard way worse and, you know, things like that. It's how it's situated, because this was situated very realistically for me. And I just didn't. I was like, eh. So yeah, I guess.
So your mileage may vary on this one.
Yes. I think it's one of those that, like, maybe some people love it. Maybe some people are like, skip it.
What we should read not quite the opposite. I know that there are some, I think I may have one on my stack, that is a lady executive.
Oh, I love a lady executive.
But I mean, it won't have probably not a male secretary, but it'll probably be some like socialite, like,
yes.
Yeah, maybe we should.
That would be great. But I think it's also like.
Well, no, we did kind of get that with, dare I say, the Sidney Sheldon book.
Also, Matt Cutter and Crazy Pants. From the
she was
Hood.
not an executive. She was a United States Treasury agent.
So this has been our kind of take on.
This has been our first Judith McNaught.
Yeah.
So why don't y'all tell us, because I know she's a really popular author. This was a rando. I think I picked it up at the book dispensary.
Yeah.
Why don't y'all tell us what your favorite Judith McNaught is and why we should read it if we had kind of a split decision on this one. We would really like to hear what you have to say about this author. I thought that the writing was quite good.
Yeah. The writing was great.
So tell us which one we should read.
Yes, so this has been our take on Judith McNaught's Double Standard. You can find us, as usual, at B-Tipplers on Twitter, Bodice Tipplers on Instagram, Bodice Tipplers on Facebook. And if you want to throw, $1 a month or whatever our way, is patreon.com/Bodice Tipplers. And if you don't want to do that, but you want to show us a little bit of love, the best thing that you can do is go to wherever you listen to your podcast and like, rate, and review us.
Tipplers is part of the Frolic Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frog.media/podcasts.